Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Shubham. Shubham, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm really excited to be a part of the show. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun conversation. I already have so many questions about it. Just to kind of put like a title on the episode of this whole conversation, we're talking about outbound marketing today and how to lead with content instead of going straight for the demo request. We're all inundated with just so much spam in our email. It's not engaging. There's no research behind it. There's no value. And honestly, it's so rampant that nobody's paying attention. So when you're looking at this, what kind of sparked this concept of maybe we should do outbound differently? And how do we have that aligned with marketing? So how did that kind of go from there?
So I think in my previous organization, my leadership was sort of aligned with that idea. Like that came from them. I was working with the BDRs and everyone around, marketing, like satellite jobs that revolves around marketing. And I think they wanted to try out this concept where instead of pushing for a hard sell, maybe why not? Because at that point of time, we are seeing a lot of this research coming out from Gartner and whatnot, where they're saying like over 60% of B2B buyers usually consume like 3 to 4 pieces of content, and a buyer journey does not move in a straight line. They might come to your website today, hot intent, and I don't know what all terms people use, and they might just back off, just go away and then come back a month later again with the same intent. And, so it's really crucial to have, a process where you're not going really selling hard. Like, hey, I think one of the mistakes that people do with this kind of content, like with this kind of strategy is also that, just telling them, I saw you on my website today. That sort of is creepy, I think. So instead of doing that, I think one of the ways we can do is that the first touch that we try to make with the prospect is not to make hard sell, not to ask them for a demo, is basically give to get philosophy. You have to give something to get something back to you. And actually, I've seen this through my campaigns as well. Like people do want to consume a lot of content before they actually engage with a salesperson, even for a discovery call. Hey, you know what? Because they want a trusted advisor, not a salesperson. Like they can get a salesperson anywhere in the world. Like there are a lot of competitors in every department, in every segment of, you know, so they need someone who can build that trust, so that through maybe sharing that content, maybe a CXO might not buy a particular piece of, gated content from a Gartner or a Forrester research, but you have that because your content team is using that to create that content. So why not push those insights out to your target audience so that they can also be informed in their particular job role? And your job is basically to help them do their job better. That's what. If you're selling a product, so for example, right now I work with an organization called Daxko, and it's working for nonprofits in organizations like YMCAs and JCCs and Boys and Girls Club in US, Canada, and everywhere else. The audience personas that Daxco deals with is basically people who work at these organizations and are really passionate about serving their community. And more often than not, they are really short-staffed at some point of time. Resources are a little unpredictable, because they rely a lot on donations, grants, funding like that. So what you want to do there is basically help them out, give them some nugget that will help them in their day-to-day job, something like, hey, you know what, community outreach is a big problem because if you don't communicate with your community, they won't know what kind of programs you're running. So here are some 10-pointer strategy that can help you better communicate with your, community people. So that's the whole goal of your communication, and that's what marketing is doing, pushing out that kind of information through content channels, through email, HubSpot email marketing, through social media, and that's what your salesperson should also be doing. And by salesperson, I basically mean BDR, outbound BDRs that you have, because sales is a different arm altogether. So BDRs, that's the job of BDRs as well, to educate those buyers, to help those buyers, basically before they think they trust you enough to talk to you.
I love that. So the typical kind of outbound BDR motion is I send an email. Do you have this problem? Can I schedule time? You're talking about providing value before you get value. What does that email look like? And is there a call to action? How do you follow up? I love the soft sell before the hard sell. You use an example of content. Is that inline? Is that linking to your website? What does that actually look like when you're distributing that to them?
So there are two aspects to it. So basically the whole philosophy I'll give you is you have to fly under the anti-marketing radar, you know. And now there are two aspects to it. So one is that you're running a campaign, maybe a follow-up campaign or a campaign which your BDR is running on a small scale, like within a sequence you're adding like 1,000 or 2,000 prospects, and trying to nurture them. The other is you are doing this high volume campaign, basically where you are using an automation tool like RB2B, something like that. Then getting out to the market and trying to get in touch with your prospects or get in touch with your target audience. Now, with high volume automation tools, the problem is with deliverability rates. If you start sharing the links in it, directly goes to spam. Like email providers, they have this sort of process built in. But with small scale campaigns, you can link those campaigns, right? Now, when you talk about pain points, it's not just writing a line or two about the pain points that customers may or may not face. Not all your prospects are built in the same manner. Not everyone will be having the same issue, and you can't list out all the pain points in one sentence. That becomes overwhelming for the person who's reading it. Yeah. So you need a piece of content that actually links back to that pain point, and you need that piece of content to solve that pain point within that. If it's a blog, say if it's a blog, here are 10 mistakes to avoid while doing an outbound prospecting. So you need to list out, say, 5 pain points that BDRs or sales reps face while doing outbound prospecting. And then you have to give all those pointers there that this is how you can, sidestep your conundrum, or, you can avoid those mistakes. And then use that particular piece of content in your email. You
I love it.
you can't write like a 200-word email and send it to your prospect. If it's a text block in there, like I get a lot of emails from a lot of high value organizations that are doing it, you know, um, like marketing organizations, ad agencies that reach out to me for communication marketing related, services and everything. And they send me this, like if I open on my desktop, my email on desktop, even then I have to scroll down like once or twice just to get through their entire email. So the idea is to lead with the valuable stuff, send an article, a guide, or even a book, and then you might earn the right to engage with that prospect. You can't be thinking that, what, I have their contact information, I know their company's name, I know their name, and I can use the variables and just send out a generic email. They're not going to read it if they don't find value. So the first layer of filter happens when subject line is there. If you don't like the subject line, you won't open the email. And then the second layer happens when they read your first line of the email. So that's you have with your first 2 lines of the email, you have to build that rapport.
I love it. Okay. I've sent an email. I've identified the problem. I've connected with someone. Maybe they clicked on a link. They're reading my content. Now, where does it go? Now, how do people actually re engage now that they've seen the content? You've provided some value. What's kind of the next step?
So next step is, so first, with this kind of strategy, you need to look at softer metrics as well. And by softer metrics, I mean you have to look for click-through rates. You have to look for people. You have to track if people came from your email to the. And for that, you have your obvious tools like UTM links and everything to track who came from which campaign. And that's very easy to do that. Like just tracking click-through rates won't be an ideal situation, because click-through rates going into merging into your website sessions as anonymous visitors, they don't do your campaign justice. So you need to ensure that your campaigns are getting tracked properly on your Google Analytics or SEMrush or any other tool that you're using to track your numbers or content metrics. So your content metrics, your traditional content metrics, should also speak volumes about you need to attribute all your basically clicks from your campaigns to your website, right? Because that's how you are going to know how people are engaging with your content, if your content is even good enough to be engaged with, and in the first place. I think that's the first step, like click-through rates, then your how many people have engaged with your content, and then with your third or fourth touch, like in a campaign, you're sending out say 5 emails within a campaign. You have automated a campaign of 5 emails, 3 calls or 4 calls. So now you need to, in the first 2 3 emails, you need to establish how many people are engaging actually with my content on the website, or is there any positive replies? Someone saying, "Hey, thank you for sharing this piece of insight with me," or some positive replies. Look for those positive replies, because that's a signal of an intent, and that's very helpful. Even if a positive reply is there, you know that you have a door open there. And from there, after the third or fourth email, you now have to look at harder metrics like are they willing to talk to you? And you should start at a 15-minute, 10-minute discovery call. That's your first thing. Don't just pull them in, try to pull them into a 1 hour call, because well, nobody wants to speak to anyone out of the blue, for an hour. Go for smaller, goals like 15-minute discovery call. Once they get into the 15-minute discovery call, and then that's the part where sales team takes care of the rest. Build out your presentations in a way that you can give the most value proposition within those 15 minutes, answer all their queries, and then build a repository of all their objections and everything, and then send it back to people like us.
Yeah.
Refine the content and make it even better.
I love it. I love the information here. I think it's so good. But we are out of time for this episode today. Shubham, if anyone wants to reach out and connect with you online, how and where can they find you?
I am really active on LinkedIn, so I think that's where people can reach me.
Very cool. And we'll link to the profile and all that stuff in the show notes. Shubham, thank you for all the insights. Really do appreciate it today.
Yeah, thank you so much.